Yeah.
It's super congested, hard to breathe, but it's negative. And he just we have like a big box. So you know, just think it's like
That's the best sound ever.
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
Did you plan something on that day?
I'm going hunting. Not going to be, well, I'm either going to be in Eastern Oregon if it's not burning down. I'm going to go somewhere.
Yeah. Well, what if you're already done by that date?
Well, I would have to be done, and my brother would have to be done, and my dad would have to be done.
It's been known to happen.
Absolutely awesome.
I was gonna say.
If I can, I will. But
Jesse and his dad and brothers and a few others, 7 elk in 4 days. So.
wow.
They said they'll never do that again. Like they should have just not. I mean, it worked out fine, but
It's a ton of work.
yeah.
Check, check, check. Yeah, still
It was
just way
like,
too high.
They were all up like 3.
Check, 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 check. Check, check, check.
Took shifts.
We did a couple schools, we did 6 out of 2 days. But that was on private property, so we were able to take pickups to it.
Yeah.
Wasn't near as bad as those.
They used side by sides, but you could only take them a certain, the end of a certain road.
That's a ton.
I think they all ended up getting sick too, just like because they were just so wore out.
Check, check.
Hello?
Sounds good for you. Counselor Shields, can you talk into the mic?
Check, check, check.
Turn
Howdy.
his up. He's
Hello,
hiding.
hello.
you have a small
Hello, hello.
live voice. Test, test. Did you hear me? The GR number or the frequency number? GR3, channel 2. Hello, hello.
Oh, they're all group 3.
Hi, long time no see. How's your day?
527.70.
Berry picking with my dad. We both
Hello.
limited out, so that's a good day.
Hello, hello.
Huckleberries.
More? Louder?
Depends. Depends on where you're picking, I guess. In the Gifford Pinchot.
Check, check, check. It's, so it just needs to be a lot closer.
I don't
It's
know.
a free, just like you sign it up and you print it. But it's not like we keep track when we're there. That's what I. But like we got back and we're like measuring out ours in lines and we're like,
Wouldn't it have to cool in here though,
we
having
both
a
got
whole day
another
like
gallon. Like,
Yeah. I feel like we need to figure out a way to like open that back door or something, let the heat escape that way
Oh, yeah.
instead of.
Yeah.
Check, check, check. Is that too loud for me?
No.
Just crap.
And it, yeah, who knows? Like in all the years we've been doing it, because we're just like, oh, it's like you drive up this highway and then at, mile marker 29, you hang up right on this like hidden Forest Service road and then you go up there 3 miles and then you turn, it's all like, anyway, we've only seen Ranger once, but we were both glad we had our first
Check.
We had a city letter, but
So if I talk like this, can you guys hear me a little bit? Can you hear me through
interesting.
the speaker a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah.
no,
Oh, yeah.
we can hear each other, but without the microphones, the audience just hears wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, it was a really good, like, we were only out there 3.5, 4 hours.
Good. I might
Yeah,
get
gallon
loud.
of those.
No promises.
It's a good year. They were bushes that it looked like.
I think it is much improved having these microphones.
You don't have your gap?
See, I just got home
Yeah.
and like threw them in the freezer and
Might have to
came here, so
stop
sorry,
someone.
this is the fresh from the woods version.
This at least means to. We'll get started in just a couple moments.
Glad to see you're feeling better.
So,
Even Sean was like, she must be really sick. She never listened.
no. I knew it would be fine, but
Abigail was fighting a fire in a mattress. Got tested positive for COVID this morning, so sent her home.
It's like almost everyone we know right now is getting sick with it.
well, I know the
Knock on some wood.
but I woke up in the middle of the night and felt just like after I got myself a shot, and I was like, this is it. That's okay.
Yeah, she said they worked 30 hours straight. But she says it just feels like cold.
Well, and she's probably just like
She's just
worn
exhausted.
out too. Like her body couldn't fight it off.
That's a long day.
Still, that's gotta be so hard. Out, like you're proud, but it's tough. We met with a marine recruiter for son this week, and it's just like, no, it's like he's gonna be an adult and make his choice. That's hurt.
It's harder on moms, I think. Dad's worried, but I think mom's worried more.
But no matter what, that's what I would be doing, so at least it's.
My dad was the one who like cried all the way home from when they dropped me off at college.
Each into their own, that's for sure.
Bookmarks pulled up. I'm so happy to have those.
I have an embarrassing amount of tabs open on my computer at work.
How much value is there in having the Zoom meeting up with the camera on? Is there,
We have Counselor Dyke on there, so that
Oh,
would be
okay.
helpful.
It also shows up like when people do the, watch it back on YouTube or something.
so there's some benefit to it? What?
Real quick before we get started, Counselor Dyke, can you check your microphone?
I can barely hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Is that any better, Counselor Dyke?
It is.
Okay.
All right. I'm good to go. Yeah.
This table's not over there, the one that I use. That table doesn't work very well.
All right, it is 7 o'clock. I will call to order the August 7th meeting of the Amity City Council. Please rise and join me in saluting the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tasha, will you take roll first, please?
Counselor Melissa Bojorquez,
Present.
Counselor April Dyke,
Present.
Counselor Sandy McCarter.
Present.
Oh, see that? You made it. Counselor Caleb Shields,
Here.
Counselor Alice Thompson,
Here.
Okay. We will move on to the consent agenda. We have budget versus actuals and minutes from the regular July meeting and the work session on July 17th.
Oh. Can you mute your computer?
Am I unmuted? Sorry. Sorry.
That should do it.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Consent agenda passes. We'll move on to citizen comments and questions. This is an opportunity to present items not on the regular agenda. Please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We have the sheriff's office report in our packet. I don't see anyone here this evening.
There's been a lot of vacation in the sheriff's office, so.
We had a good turnout from the sheriff's department last night. Not so much tonight. And then I don't see anyone with a dig report. Do we have anyone in the audience with a comment or a question this evening? And I don't.
Yes,
Oh.
I have a comment. I would like to thank the powers that be. Should I say my name?
Yeah, please state your name.
Okay. Joanne McBrayer, I live at 409 Waddell Avenue. I would like to thank the powers that be to pave all the basic streets in the north part of Amity. I'll put it that way. I hope those south very often. And it's very nice. I have to control my speed now because I don't have to swerve around all potholes. But I do like the nice, smooth road work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. We're glad to hear that input. Anything else for citizen comments and questions this evening? If not, we will move on to old business. Our first item is to approve and adopt ordinance 684, a local tax on marijuana. So this is from last meeting. I don't think there's anything much else to say. Nothing's changed?
Nothing's changed.
Okay,
Other than I did make the edits that you passed it with last time of dedicating the marijuana tax to the street fund. And I believe that was it. I believe that was the only one.
I think there was one other.
There were a couple of changes in the,
it was in the
Resolution.
resolution, but no changes in the actual ordinance, so that's what we need to pass.
Okay.
So that resolution just passed and could be amended, like, could be passed with the amendments. This stayed as is with no changes. So procedurally, if someone wanted to make a motion, first would need to be by read by title only, unless there's opposition to that.
I move to approve the second reading of ordinance 684 by title only.
I have a motion and a second to read ordinance 684 by title only. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Please signify by saying no. Motion passes. And then, where's the title? Okay,
and then would you like me to read it?
yes, please.
Ordinance number 684, an ordinance of the city of Amity imposing a 3% tax on the sale of marijuana items by a marijuana retailer.
I move to adopt ordinance 684 imposing a local tax on the sale of marijuana items.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 684 imposing a local tax on the sale of marijuana items. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is also a second reading of something carrying over from our last meeting, and that is the prohibition on suicide and related businesses. Anything to discuss on this? Okay, being that it is night of the second reading of this ordinance, the procedure would be the same.
I move to approve the second reading of ordinance number 683 by title only.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of ordinance 683 by title only. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Nathan, will you read the title for us, please?
Ordinance number 683, an ordinance declaring a ban on psilocybin service centers and the manufacture of psilocybin products.
And I will just clarify, this is the ordinance that the council will pass so that it can go on the ballot for the Amity voters to decide. But we will have this ordinance, if passed today, it will allow for that to happen.
I move to adopt ordinance number 683, a prohibition on psilocybin related businesses.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 683, a prohibition on psilocybin-related businesses. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. That was our last item of old business, and we'll move into new business, first of which is clean water planning loan application. And I'm going to ask Nathan to give an overview of this item.
Yes, thank you. I had been hoping that we could get past some of our water projects before also focusing on wastewater, but apparently that is not the case. Recently, Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, expressed a few concerns regarding the City of Amity's wastewater treatment system, and specifically its plant, and whether or not it has capacity for the 36 new homes that were approved in the Amity Oaks development. While city staff and engineering team does believe that there is capacity, there's some studies that DEQ would like to see us do, some steps that DEQ would like to see us take in moving towards wastewater treatment improvements. Similarly, we're also in the midst of updating the city's NPDES permit, and currently DEQ has an interest in adding an ammonia limit for our wastewater permit, for our effluent that we send to the Salt Creek. In order to meet this limit, there's a couple of routes that the city could go. One is to improve the treatment process at the treatment facility in a specific way, and engineers called it a moving bed bioreactor, something complex. The other way that may be an option for the city of Amity, preliminary results show that it is promising, is that if we run the numbers and the numbers come back right and we slightly change the configuration of our outfall, then it would dilute our effluent enough that the ammonia limit would not be necessary. Right now it's just a straight pipe essentially into the river, right? A straight 6-inch pipe. One of the proposed configurations, if you will, is to create a pipe that has 3 ports down into the river or down into Salt Creek, which would spread out our effluent and let it, kind of be discharged over a wider area, lowering the amount of ammonia in any given pool of water, essentially. In order to, a solid mixing zone study that includes the installation of a stream gauge, which would monitor the flows through a winter season, would cost approximately $150,000 for the city to do. With that, with that study in mind, as well as some other studies, like that would help us move towards additional improvements. There's, environmental reviews, some preliminary engineering. There's several of those that Keller can be working on to get us much closer to the actual construction point on our wastewater plant. DEQ offers a planning loan specific to planning studies. Their Clean Water State Revolving Loan, Clean Water State Revolving Fund, and up to 100. That loan comes with up to $100,000 in principal forgiveness upon signing, as well as a 1% interest rate on whatever balance you do borrow. Given the favorable interest rate, I believe it would make the most financial sense for the city to borrow approximately $250,000 to $300,000 to perform those studies over the next couple of years, and then work to pay that back. That application is due this Friday, and so I was hoping to have an approval from the city council to apply for. I think I wrote in here 250,000. After further discussion with engineering, it's kind of up to us. The more money we get, the more we can put towards funding. There's certainly plenty of them to do, and we can take it pretty far. We can take it up to essentially 30% design on actual improvements. So we can get decently far along with the conceptual work and the design work with this funding. And so we could go 250,000, 300,000, whatever we feel would be best. And it's also worth noting that we don't have to use everything we apply for. We can apply for 300,000 and get it, but our studies only end up costing 250,000. That's okay. The rest.
I know you didn't mention it, but it says in here that it includes the installation of the gauge, the monitoring gauge, which then would be a long-term solution to keeping an eye on this, correct?
Yeah, that gauge would be monitored for at least probably about 12 months, but specifically the winter season when we discharge it in the river.
So it's not a permanent gauge?
It could function as a permanent gauge, like it could remain there, but there'd be no urgency or reason to take it out necessarily. So leaving it there and keeping it in use could be useful long term. Building that data on what the flows are like in Salt Creek. That's somewhat of a question. And then Salt Creek's small enough that there's not a lot of known data out there already. So the more data that we have to show flow data over a long period of time, the better we can show that we're not hurting water, or learn how better to treat our wastewater so it can avoid hurting fish, hurting wildlife, whatever may be in Salt Creek.
And if I could just add a couple things. So I had the opportunity, Nathan invited me, he actually had a meeting with DEQ yesterday about these planning grants. And it works really well. So they are just now getting a new revision of our wastewater facility plan study because they still haven't accepted it. That, from February of 2023, Keller and the city has still been working to get it to where DEQ wanted. Part of that is they would like to see more of these studies within it. And this really does, this preliminary work lays the foundation, but that's exactly why they have these planning grants, is because with the, if eligible, the forgivable principal, because they want people to start here and base it on data. Something to think about, these years are 5 loan repayments. So a lot of times when we talk about loans, 30 years, 40 years, this is a 5-year repayment. So our sewer fund is pretty healthy right now if we were looking at needing to put $50,000 a year, or, if if we took out a larger amount. Even if Nathan was able to get the application in, it would likely be 6 months before we got on the intended use plan, and it needs to be posted for a certain amount of time. The EPA looks at that. So it would still be at least the beginning of the year before a loan contract came to council to consider. And then just something that I thought of when you talked about keeping it there long-term and getting that is part of what they look for in granting those forgivable is water and energy conservation or like green sustainability. So if we can show that like we are trying to monitor our river, the health of it, also, you know, climate impact is a big thing for the state of Oregon. And so if we can talk about how the climate is impacting the water sources that we use for, I think that that would be good on our side. Yeah, that's about.
So with the loan process taking about a year or 6 months,
Yeah.
Does that still meet the requirements that we have for what needs to get done on our current?
Thank you. That's worth noting, and I was going to segue into that. I had a conversation with our Keller engineers after that meeting yesterday. In order to, you know, keep on track with our NPDES permit and a proposed compliance schedule, we would need that stream gauge in for this discharge season, which means that we would want to start, you know, at least building the stream gauge, you know, getting it in place before November, so that we could monitor through this winter. One nice item that DEQ did mention about this planning loan is that if we're approved, they can reimburse expenses immediately after the application date. So it's a little bit of a risk on the city that, you know, maybe we won't get approved for it, even if we, you know, start spending money in September.
Or not everything would be eligible, fall under eligibility of the
For a
loan.
full loan reimbursement, but there is the chance that we get approved in December, and then I can kind of pull back from the loan to recover any costs that we've incurred so far. But that is something to consider, that most likely, I've asked Keller to prepare kind of a contract for that outfall mixing zone study, and most likely that'll be coming to council next month in September, so that we can begin working on that and moving towards that study.
So what I'm hearing is you are presenting us with the approval of a funding option, but the work needs to be done regardless, and that's gonna come to us next month. So knowing that that work, necessary work is coming next month, this is a valid funding option for me. Not the only, but maybe the only one at 0.98% interest.
Motion to approve. Do we have any other questions?
Any input from online?
No.
Motion.
Nope.
Motion to approve an application for $250,000 for a $250,000 clean water planning loan.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve an application for a $250,000 clean water planning loan. Any further discussion? How do you guys feel about possibly amending the motion upward if we can, if we don't use it? Just because Nathan asked that question yesterday and we said that 300,000 or 350 are very on point that we can get those applications. And I'll ask staff to, are you comfortable with that 200?
At some point, I'm comfortable with as much as you want to do, but as we've noted, some of these improvements need to be done either way. the sewer fund is decently healthy right now, so there is room in there for us to, straight up spend the money if we wanted to.
And I will say, I heard them say, ask for more than you think you might need because it's easier to not spend it and just pay it back into the loan rather than having to amend it once they've, because it is state funds, but it comes from federal grants and it's on a cycle.
I'm saying, noting the interest rates, it's hard to say no to 1% when anything we leave in our savings account, we get 4.5%.
Should I do a motion?
I mean, it's up to you if you want to do this.
I think, yeah, I think we might as well.
That was just my discussion after your motion.
I thought about it reading it. You okay with that?
Yeah, seems to make sense.
Yeah, if that's the case, feel free to amend your motion.
Motion to approve an application for a $250,000 to $350,000 clean water plan loan.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve an application for $250,000 to $350,000 clean water planning loan. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes.
I just want to take a pause. You saw the comment. Arthur said that your
My audio kicked out, yeah. The batteries in my microphone died. That's what I switched.
Next item of new business, ARPA water line contract amendments. The city ARPA waterline project went out to bid and was successfully awarded to lowest bidder in Kansas. The low bid was under the city's expectations, and so there was additional funding available in the project. With that extra funding, the city would like to do some additional funding for Archer Street. The proposed amendment would cover the additional costs to our engineers, other associates in the design and management of Archer Street. As exhibit, we have the contract shown for you.
Not much other than just to know that this is just the additional design services. And so it ended up being like $28,000 for Keller to prepare the additional sheets, do the additional project management, that kind of thing. And so I believe anyway that I'll be coming back with the change order to the contract itself for additional paving on Goucher.
Can you remind us what that bid came in at and what the contract? And
Yeah.
is it the same company that can do the portion as well?
The contract will remain with the same company, and then they'll likely subcontract it out. It actually works really well. The contractor that we went with, I believe his brother has a paving company in the same yard, so they subcontract everything to them. But yeah, so our bid came in at 1.1 million, 1,105,000, and by all estimates, we had approximately 1.7 million in ARPA funding available between the Keller Associates, so like engineering costs and land acquisition costs and some of those, probably at having about 1.6 and a half towards construction.
So do you anticipate that the paving contract will come in at $300,000, $400,000?
How we're planning to do it is essentially say, we would like to pave this much, up to this amount.
Oh, up to this amount, whatever
this
can get done.
And hopefully they can figure out how much that is. Whether it's, I'm not sure if it'll be all of Goucher or if we'll start at nursery and work our way south until 450 or 400,000 ends up.
Because they'll need to be fixing where the water lines have been put in anyway, so at least there, and then how much more.
They will, yeah. Yeah, that was why we're proposing Goucher, because based on the condition of the road, we believe that tearing up, a 4 or 5 foot section for a water line, putting the water line in and then repaving that might look decent, but the rest of the road is really crumbly, and so how they merge will not last well, and so we'd like to widen that paving to the entire road.
And then, this is the, I can't remember the letters, but this is the funding that came from our state representatives, the direct ARPA allocation. So these are all eligible uses for the water line replacement.
Yeah, essentially, the advice I've gotten is that anything related, even tangentially, as long as those projects get done, anything to help supplement those is great.
It's just my job to ask. Is there other comments, questions, or discussion on the amendment to the color contract?
I move to approve the proposed Keller contract amendment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the proposed Keller contract amendment. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Our next item is domain transition grant agreement. This is quite a long grant agreement.
It is.
For what it is.
It really is. I can give a little bit of the background here. Several months ago, I applied for 2 grants to support the city's cybersecurity changes. The Oregon cybersecurity program, it's a pass-through grant. Essentially, the state receives federal money and then has to award it out. I believe this was the first year that the state had this program, and so they faced some administrative challenges getting it going. For example, I originally anticipated an award notice by, I think, February or April, between February and April, and I just heard a couple weeks ago. But we unfortunately we were not awarded the $25,000 requested for MFA and immutable backup. I will admit that grant request was a little looser. But we were awarded the $5,000 for the .gov domain, which I have reserved the amityoregon.gov domain. We were given that, and so we will now work with Genuine Technology to implement that transition to that new domain over the next few months. But this grant agreement will reimburse expenses up to $5,000 towards that. So.
I will say towards the very end of this contract, it starts talking about funds $360,000, and I realized that that was like the state of Oregon pass-through for them to hand out to everyone. But I'm like, didn't I read it's only $5,000? Yes. So we'd be accepting a grant of $5,000 for this purpose.
Motion to approve the provided grant agreement for the city's transition to a .gov domain.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the provided grant agreement for the city's transition to a .gov domain. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Next, we have a park path improvement contract award.
Yes. So this last year when Rob Dakin was here as the interim, he applied for a park grant, an Oregon Parks and Recreation Department local government grant program. And we were awarded a grant for improvements to the city parks path. Earlier this year, I visited with 3 different contractors to get quotes for the proposed improvements. Cascadia Landscaping submitted a bid that was the lowest of the 3, and seemed to be a great respondent for those, a good match for that project. There's been a little bit of a delay since then because we were wording and rewording the agreement, but we've gotten that lined out, and I sent that to Cascadia, and they didn't have any issues with it, and so I would now like to have the city council award that contract to Cascadia for that project. They can then begin work likely in the winter, in December, January.
So the contract references the price point in their bid. What is that? Because it's not named in the contract at all. I should have tried to find it in my notes earlier.
No, you're good. I have the bids from a while ago. Let me see if I can find them.
Because the way I read it, we will hold them to that price, that bid they gave us, right?
Mm-hmm.
For all the scope of work listed in the contract. I just couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth with Cascadia several times to make sure that that's still an appropriate price, given there were a few contract requirements that they weren't necessarily familiar with, like prevailing wage, but he reassured me that the price would not change. And now I don't know that I'm finding it.
The total amount set for that project, though, was $93,000 through the grant and our match.
Yes. Yep. Yeah,
I'm just trying to.
It's 93,300, I think. The grant was 75,000, and our match was 18,300. Oh, here it is. So the total bid that he submitted was $62,430.
So that's something, kind of just like the Goucher Street line replacement, anything else we can talk about where the rest of those grant funds can be used after this project's completed?
Yeah, Brian from Cascadia Landscaping and I have talked about a few ideas of, maybe providing some additional benches along the path, or
Could we use that for the picnic tables that we've talked about?
we likely could, yeah. I similarly checked with Oregon Parks and Rec to see if there were requirements, and he said as long as the project gets done, anything else to accentuate the park is essentially icing on the cake. And so we'll try to, keep the improvements focused towards the path, but I think benches, I think picnic tables, other things that we've talked about include, what was it? Part of this bid is 2 catch basins for surface water where the path floods particularly bad. There may be other instances of that where the path is prone to flooding, and we may be able to add some drainage, things like that. It's also worth noting that in the coming months, we're probably going to be working on some interpretive signage in the city park as part of our memorandum of agreement with the tribes of Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians. And so maybe we need to, design a few little spots for that of compacted gravel. I think there's also room to expand the path if there's areas that we'd like the path to go that it doesn't currently, whether that's maybe a little extension to the playground.
I'm just going to repeat something for the record that Councilor Borges said is bathroom improvements are needed as well. I know that's not directly related to this path, but accessibility of the park in its entirety was kind of why we pushed for the path improvements. So just something to think about. Before we get way off, is there any questions on the contract in front of us? Do I have a motion to award?
I move to approve the award the park path improvements contract to Cascadia Landscaping.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to award the park paths improvement contract to Cascadia Landscape. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. What looks like our last item of new business for the evening is an OLCC liquor license application. Do we have anyone here for this application this evening? Anything to add? Any questions or concerns from the council?
So are they just, that's the Coelho address, are they just gonna be operating their own little, like, corner in there?
I think so. That was the answer I got, that it would be
Okay.
within, but it's a
Great.
separate entity, so they
Yeah.
need their own license.
Perfect.
I move to approve the liquor license application for an Authentique Wine Cellars at 111 5th Street.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve liquor license application for Amity Wine Cellars at 111 5th Street. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. We will move on to department reports. We'll start off with the city administrator. Do you have anything to add to your report this evening, Nathan?
I did have one thing that I wanted to add really quick. Excited that the Rice Lane Sidewalk project has officially been completed. City's engineers are working on submitting the final pay app for the city to pay the contractor. Assuming we can get ODOT out before the end of August, which they'll come, to certify final completion of that project, we'll be able to submit an application for the next SCA grant, so that's exciting. Amity Day, I just want to say, was a huge success. That was great seeing you all out there. Thank you very much for coming. It was a ton of fun. The parade was a lot of fun. We had a great time. Hopefully I'm not stealing too much from Councilor Dyke's report, but it was a really, really good first year. We're really, really happy with it. And I can't wait to see how we improve it and increase it as we go forward. The last item that I wanted to kind of ask opinions on and just make sure everything's okay really quick. The Oregon, they're under the Oregon Parks and Rec Department, but I'm not sure if it's technically SHPO, but it's the Historic Preservation area of Oregon Parks and Rec has a mentor corps program. In the past, we've talked about a potential project, developing like a digital community archive for both the city's historic records and anything that the community may want to bring. I have submitted those 2 grant applications that we talked about to the Spirit Mountain Community Fund and Oregon Community Foundation. This mentor corps program is the opportunity for us to essentially apply to be paired up with a mentor. The service is free, provided by Oregon Parks and Rec, but essentially they provide somebody who's experienced in the realm of collections and archiving and they'll try to pair somebody up with the experience that we need to help guide, some policy development, some training on, what does that look like for the Historic Landmarks Committee? What role can they play? What kind of organization do we need for our community, repository, if you will? What specific improvements, if any, like we should make to the room physically to provide temperature, humidity control, to help preserve and make those documents last for a really long time. So they'll provide that as a free service, and I just wanted to see if that was okay for me to apply for and request that assistance.
Not seeing any major opposition. Those of you online, anyone opposed? I would say you're good to go. Explore that opportunity. Any other questions or comments for Nathan? Or from Nathan? No? Tasha, we got your report. Do you have anything to add? Public Works, Libraries, City Engineering, Billing, City Attorney, and Planner. Was there any questions, comments, concerns on those? No. With that, we will move on to business from the mayor and city councilor. We'll start off with Council President White.
Yeah, Nathan kind of touched on Amity Day. That's really the only thing. We attempted to have our follow-up meeting, but we were short people, so we are rescheduling that meeting. We will not probably have it now until September. So we'll have a wrap-up and more information then. But I think it went really well. We're excited, and we're just going to keep plowing forward. Start earlier for next year, start sending out some save the dates and some things to vendors and people at the beginning of the year. Since we know what day it's going to be every year ahead of time, that'll make it really easy for us. And that might give us a jump on maybe some other people, since we have a set date every year. So I'm just really excited that it went as well as it did.
Well, and I want to thank you personally and Stephanie and Jenna as well. A lot of hard work went into that. Staff as well. There was a lot of staff support
Absolutely.
needed and given. But thank you guys, because especially in the first year, there was a lot to figure out, and you did great. So,
Thank you.
if nothing else, Councilor Bohorquez?
Nothing to add.
Councilor MacArthur? Hearing none, we will move on to Councilor Shields.
Nothing to add.
Councilor Thompson.
Nothing to add.
Okay. Mayor's report and final comments. I will say, in addition to Amity Day, we also had a pretty successful National Night Out. Thank you everyone who could be there, slaving away over the foods and beverages, and we had a good turnout from the Sheriff's Department. The sheriff himself came. We were the first place he stopped, so that was nice. There's some pictures on Facebook, and the two children who won the bike raffle were very happy, so that was great. A question I had for council and for staff is, last year we got a request to hang the Art Harvest banners. I don't know if you'll remember that. Is that something that council would be supportive of again? I've had another request for that.
I have no problem with it.
Okay. So hearing that, I would ask staff, do you think it would be a possibility for Public Works to be able to hang those banners for, it's a specific 4 weeks from September 20th to October 12th?
I do.
Yeah, okay. Then I will reach back out to them and just let them know they have the go-ahead. Thank you everyone for supporting that. I think it's pretty cool to see them up there and to get people into our town to see our artists and talent, and everything else cool that's going on here, you know? Nathan and I will go to the Small Cities meeting tomorrow in Monmouth. Those are always nice to catch up, hear what everyone else is doing. And then tomorrow evening, the Oregon Community Foundation is having a community reception that I was invited to. So I will represent there. So I'd like to get a couple more details on the grant we have submitted, so I can talk details if necessary. We have our Safe Routes to Schools technical planning kickoff meeting happening this month. I don't know if council received the legislative gathering invitation that came from the COG, but that's happening August 20th. And then back in February, when we were talking about our council goals, we talked about childcare options for people that want to participate in local government and civic engagement. And I actually reached out to a nonprofit organization, Politicit, and I have a follow-up meeting with them August 21st, and they have a few options where if people are needing childcare in order to be here, they can get that provided and then get reimbursements, or there's options for the city to have on-site childcare happening. But I don't know all the details of that, so I'll be meeting with them and then I can bring that info back. City County dinner will be the 15th, and I will be out of the city for a couple days, so I think everyone else can hold down the fort, but I will be back for the City County dinner on the 15th. I think that's all. Any questions? Do we have anything else for the good of the order tonight? No? Nothing from online? If there's nothing else, I will ask for a final motion of the evening.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Bye, guys.